Yo, peace, everybody. Real quick update on what's been going on down on our end. You know, a lot of you had found out that the bank was trying to repo Charlie's RV, and we found out about that as well. And that's his home and someone who's, you know, done a lot for us. So we were able to stop that from happening and paying off his debts by donating him all the money that we made in June from our Patreon. So it's really amazing for us to be able to use this platform for stuff like that. A lot of people in our scene don't really get help like that. So we don't take it lightly, and we really appreciate the ability to do that, and it wouldn't have been possible without everybody who signed up. Now the month that's coming up, we're going to be doing something for Hert BF crew. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of him and his situation, seeing as it happened a while ago, and it's still currently going down. His home was raided in 2008. He was sentenced to jail in 2010 and been on parole since, which makes it 11 years. And the reason he's still on parole is because he owes $60,000 in restitution. But he's been, slowly paying that off. And we're going to be donating all of the money we make to him at the end of July. So some of the stuff that happened to him through getting caught up writing graffiti was he couldn't own any art making material legally. So they stopped him from owning chalk, markers, pencils, paint, canvases. And this is someone who's he does art. Even just outside of graph. So that's, and then he couldn't own a cell phone, couldn't drive a car, couldn't leave the county, couldn't be anywhere not contactable by landline phone, still can't leave the county. So he's getting closer to paying off the restitution and finally ending this 11 years of parole. So our plan is to finish that off. Just like we were able to save Charlie's home successfully, our plan is to stop this parole thing from going down and just finish it off, and then that's a thing of the past, you know what I mean? So that's what we're going to be doing with all of the money we make in July for everybody who signs up for the Patreon. What you'll get in return is access to Sake, Sean Crawford, Les, and Lot 29 episodes. They're all up right now. And as well, we're going to be sending everyone a print that we made on high quality photo paper of Hert's day in court, and it's him with two officers by his side, and it has his hand style under it. So trying to make it worth it to sign up and help this guy out, and help us help this guy out. So I can't once again thank you enough for everyone who's been supporting since the start, and everyone who's signed up for anything we've done or even listened to an episode. Hopefully we can keep this going and just continue helping out people who we think deserve the help. So the link to the Patreon is in our Instagram bio, and it's also on our website. Yo, thank you so much. Enjoy the episode. Peace. Boom, dude. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I seriously really appreciate this. And so I was doing a little bit of lurking on your Instagram, and I saw a post that you posted in 2016 talking about your experience with Lyme disease and how it was your health at that year was at an all-time low, and being diagnosed had you in office after office after office trying to find out some sort of treatment, but there was really no answer. So what happened with that?
Yeah, I was feeling super tired and my arm was itching one day, and I was riding into work, and I was like, I need to just go get a physical and see what's up. This just doesn't feel right. So I go in, and the doctor was about to walk out the door, and he was like, "You ever been tested for Lyme?" And I was like, "No." And literally almost had the door closed, kind of open, closed it type of thing. And he's like, "We'll test you." So he tests me. It comes back positive. I'm like, "What the fuck?" I never had a bite. Nothing.
You never rash?
No rash, nothing. So he comes back. He's like, "You got to come back one more time, get blood work." It comes back positive again. So they do it. They do 3 times. If 2 is positive, then you have it. So what they do is they run you on doxycycline for 2 weeks, which is the same thing if you get an STD or whatever, and it kills everything in you from head to toe. So I go on that, and I'm on it, and I'm starting to get sick from doxycycline. So I go back, and I'm like, yo, I'm not fucking feeling good, at all. And so there's all this stuff, and I start looking into it, and it's all this post-Lyme stuff, and then 35% of people don't have a bite. And it's just a world of stuff I'm now looking into, and I'm feeling like shit. Mm-hmm. And I go back to him, and a lot of Western medicine doctors don't know shit about this. So they're like, yeah, we don't know what to tell you. you got to go to a specialist. Specialists don't take insurance, and there's only one in New York. And her protocol is like 3 times, and you'll get better. And the first visit's $1,000, second is $8, and the third is $6. And by the third, you're supposed to start feeling better. So you get there, and the protocol.
You better hope you feel better. You just paid fucking 10 G's. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. So it's like you get there, and she does the same lab work a regular doctor does, and then kind of looks at everything a little bit deeper, and I'm like pretty much feeling good, right? So according to my blood work, everything's normal. Vitamin D is a little bit low, whatever. But it's like, change your diet. Okay, well, that's like telling a smoker to quit, like right off rip. So it's like, yeah, no sugar, just bland as a rice, very bland. Well, just water, rice, that's it. And I'm like, all right, well, I can't do that. So I changed it a little bit over 6 months to a year, start to feel better, but I would have like rings of numbness in my hand, my foot, burning here, and would come and go. And eventually it boiled down to like, I was having so much anxiety from all the problems from Lyme that it was like now it's like an anxiety thing. And there's theory in like the psychological world where if a Lyme patient isn't treated properly, they will end up actually they will go insane. So that you'll find a lot of Lyme patients in a psychiatrist's office and they'll be like, what's wrong with me? I don't know what's fucking wrong with me. Like, I'm going crazy. And yeah, that's pretty much where that went. I thought I was actually going fucking crazy. Then I went to a psychiatrist and I was like, I don't even know what you're fucking saying. So it was like, I'm fine, like mentally. It's just like, I just don't feel fucking good. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, I don't know what to tell you. I'm like, I don't want any meds or anything like that. So basically it was just like getting on a lot of supplements, vitamin D, ramping up everything, changing the diet. Took about 2 good years of change, and then yeah, but I'd imagine a lot of people have it and don't know it, especially a lot of writers who are around woods and shit like that are always like, I'm fucking tired. You ever been checked for Lyme? No. Well, you ever been bit by ticks? Yeah. Fucking, I find them on my clothes all the time. And it's like, you should go get checked, because later down the road, you're not gonna be feeling too fucking great. Because I don't know how long I had it.
So it gets progressively worse?
It gets like, Tommy Hilfiger's daughter had it. She wrote an entire book about it. She fucking almost died. Her whole life was fucked. Like, my friend Dom, he had Lyme, and now he can't like remember where he even parked his car. Shit like that. All kinds of weird stuff. People walking in the airport having fucking heart failure. Like, when they don't know they have it, it just starts eating away at weird different things in your body. And yeah, eventually I just caught up and took care of it. And
so there's only one specialist in all of New York?
And the other ones are all on Long Island. So Lyme, there's a lot of ticks on Long Island. Yeah. Like, if you've ever been to Montauk or any of that shit, Hamptons, when you go like by the beach, it's like, this area is infested with ticks. Don't go. Never fucking go there. Like, don't even go like by that at all, Connecticut's huge. There's a ton of them there because Lyme was found in Lyme, Connecticut. So it's like there's a ton of doctors out there, but they rape you, it's like all these protocols, especially in New York. And like, honestly, like all the research and all the facts are there at this point with that. Like, everything that lady told me by the end, which I ended up going to her 6 times and then like didn't even pay her for the last 3 visits. It's all there.
It's literally all there.
It's all like, she wasn't saying anything groundbreaking, right? Like, it's.
Well, we talked about this with Seb, and he talking about how like you can find knowledge in your own way. You can really reach with like the internet now and libraries and all these resources. You could straight up find pretty much everything you want. Obviously doctors are not obsolete, but like for a lot of the stuff that people will rush to a hospital for and end up straight up getting taxed, you could seriously find out what to do and not like necessarily ride it out, just like see what happens. But like you don't have to rush to the hospital for everything. Like, you can see what happens. You can inform yourself. Like, all right, I'm most likely, like, I can see photos that look exactly like what I have, and a serious description on either WebMD or even Reddit communities of people who are feeling this way, and I can like potentially avoid a ginormous taxing or like find out that certain like supplements would make me feel better and potentially get rid of it altogether or get rid of like most of the symptoms, which is what they're going to tell me. It took them like years of study to do. I could find out without knowing all the reasoning, like, oh, I just literally have to take more like vitamin D or some shit like that.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
So are you good now though?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. I mean, there was definitely some like discouraging moments. Like I had good insurance at like an agency job I had, and there was like a moment where I was in the elevator going to work, and someone was like, "What's wrong, dude? You look like you're pissed." And I'm like, "Yo, I'm going around the fucking ringer trying to find out what's wrong with me." And like the nurse downstairs thinks this, someone thinks that, my mom thinks there's nothing wrong, like, no one thinks, like, everyone has an opinion on it. And I'm like, I just know that I didn't once feel like this, and all of a sudden I feel like this. And basically what I think it came down to is that I took too much doxycycline, and now I can't even take it anymore. I tried to take it recently for something, and I was like immediately throwing up, and I had to go to something lower. And yeah, I mean,
so doxycycline, is that just like a general medicine that you
yeah,
said
like,
kills everything?
You go to the doctor and you're like, I got chlamydia, small bacteria. It'll just kill all the bad bacteria. So like Lyme is a bad bacteria. Lyme feeds off all kinds of bacteria. I mean, a tick, the bad tick, the small, it has 10,000 bad bacteria in it. So you have to like kind of, and it feeds off all the shit we like, sugar, like all the good stuff that we like, all the stuff I like. So yeah, it was hard. It was hard to change, like just salads and shit like that. So
no, it's pretty bugged out thinking like how truly sensitive the human anatomy is, because like you could really be taking care of yourself like physically and everything, and like one fucking date camping, it's like change your whole life, lose your eyesight.
Hell yeah.
Fucking,
Your memory.
Yo, and the thing is, we get so comfortable. Like I just recently went on a road trip and I was like camping in the woods alone, and like, and it's funny because I did see those signs, but for some reason I'm just like, I don't know, like whatever. And I just, things happen and you don't check yourself or nothing, and like I'm fine, but like who knows?
Who knows what could have happened? Like, or this dude was walking around barefoot one time, like near the beach, and stepped on like some rowdy insect.
Puerto Rico.
And like foot got like numb, and I'm like in 2 hours, I truly don't know what's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like I do. You better Google this shit. But like, even if you do Google it, like, are you gonna like what you read? You're gonna immediately be like, oh well, I'm fucked in 4 hours. I have 4 hours.
Nah, yeah. I don't fuck with anything outdoor anymore without wool socks, boots, pants, long sleeves, and like mad bug spray. Like nothing. Like I'm not anywhere without that shit. Mm-hmm. So yeah, especially anywhere near the woods. I don't fuck with the woods. Like fuck that shit.
Yeah, you talked about too how like in that same year, like you watched a lot of things change, most things for the worse. Just reading like a lot of your captions, and like I know like some of the bands that you like, and like the style of hardcore that you like, because there's obviously different. There's like Have Heart, like Youth of Today is very different from fucking One Life Crew.
Right.
So like, what do you think like? Are you like more so like a negative person, or are you like more pessimistic by nature? Do you think that like, what do you think of like the state of humanity or society, or like the state of even graffiti?
God, fucking huge question. Jesus Christ. Fuck, man. No, I think there's a lot of humor in like hardcore lyrics as well. Like just like the way everything's written, and it's like rap. Like how many times can you sell drugs in a trap house? But like there's millions of records and ways to say that. And hardcore also has the same thing where it's like, how much can I hate life, and then like say it over and over again. And I think there's humor in like all that, but it's like, thank God for graffiti, and thank God for things like the stuff that we like to do, because like it really helps get through everything that like, life like sometimes is really fucking boring, and then other times it's really exciting, and then other times it's just fucking really depressing, and there's like these patterns and everything, and it's like fuck, like I listen to a bunch of the the podcasts you guys have done, and this subject comes up a lot, and a lot of people are very like optimistic, or they're against the world or whatever, and I'm just like, I don't agree with anything, right? Like I just want to go paint, I want to go ride, hopefully get some money, and just try to just even balance of just, because no matter what you do, like yeah, well, I'm fucking just gonna drink this water bottle all the time, but yet this water bottle was probably made in China with like fucking slave labor. So it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. So why am I gonna worry about it all the time? But no, there's definitely something funny about like all the hardcore lyrics. It's a very like stripped down poetry, and I really love that. It's very like it's very smart in some ways, and it's just to the point. And yeah. But you know, is the other part of it the state of graffiti with that, or is that a whole other question?
I get like a sense from you, like, you know, it's not like this is like the first time we've met, but I get like this sense that like a lot of the times, like, it seems like you view things and it's like in a sense of like it was like the thing that you're viewing has been stripped of its purity, or like the thing that you're viewing has like been straight up ruined by a bunch of corniness. And I just wanted to hear what you thought about that.
I think about this every single day, like especially the area where like that we're doing like trains and stuff, and that like graffiti's obviously the new skateboarding and it's popular, and
dude, everybody writes graffiti.
Everyone writes graffiti, and like a part of me is like, oh, you know, like I wish that like it was the old days where it's like you're just gonna fucking kick someone's ass every time you see them or rob them and take, but then it's like, I didn't grow up like that, so what gives me the fucking right to act like that? Mm-hmm. But then when I see like some like new jack like in the yard, I'm like, yo, I just want to strangle that dude and then take his paint and then but then like the whole other part's like, nah, like what does it even matter? I don't own this rock, this rail, this building, this train, this gate. Like I don't own any of this shit, so what the fuck do I care what he does? As long as he just doesn't go over me, that's whatever. But even then, sometimes I'm like, all right, still gotta break this down. You can't do that. Nah. So it's like, I don't know. It's really a big, like, I used to be very strict on every single thing. Then I realized it was killing me. And then, you know, you just kind of let things go a little bit.
What do you mean by strict on every single thing?
Very, very opinionated and very, like, this way or the highway. You're not doing it this way, then I don't fuck with you. Mm-hmm. And like, there's something I do like about people like that, and you don't find them a lot anymore, but you do find them kind of in New York a little bit, and somewhere around the, you know, I've met a lot of people like that, but I do like that there's people who are territorial, then they're assholes about this, or they won't fuck with any of this group of people, they only fuck with themselves. But then there's a whole other part of me. It's like, I don't know, like, you know, it's weird. Fucking, should you be like that? I don't know. Fucking, it kind of doesn't really get you a lot of places, and then people think you're a dick and this and that.
I think long term it can make you a lot of enemies.
Yeah.
Which can lead to a lot of insane shit.
Yeah.
Like if you make enemies with the wrong, if you're just making enemies with everyone, you're gonna make enemies with a group of people that you wish weren't your enemies, and then like. That leads to a whole life that becomes like a cool story later, but in the present moment, it's like, fuck my life. Like I have these like serious enemies.
Yeah, I mean, I've burned a lot of bridges that I wish I didn't, and it was because of just like stupid little things like that. Just literally the dumbest stuff ever that just gets between people. And you're like, why are we... At this point, I'm like, why do we even argue about that? Then you look back at it again, you're like, well, that wasn't loyalty, or that wasn't respect, or whatever. And then you're like... Well, real friends should just, you know, shake hands or even fight and then just get it over with and keep going. I don't know. But, I don't know.
How did you get into, like, hardcore?
How did I get into hardcore? Well, the high school I went to was, like, a suburban high school. We had a graduating class of 650, which was huge for where we were from. And a lot of those dudes were straight edge, like a lot of the kids who skated. There was probably like 35 of them maybe, and like that was unlike a regular high school where there's like a popular, they were the popular ones, like they were like the cool dudes, and like they always had like Carry On, Floor Punch, fucking Count Me Out, In My Eyes. All of them had all the shirts on. I'd look that shit up any way I could, and then like they all ended up becoming my friends. And then a kid whose brother was in the band My Luck, which was where we're from, he had a Bridge 9 sampler and he gave it to me, and it was a fighting music Bridge 9 sampler, and I would listen to it on the bus every single day, and then that was just that. And the first thing I went to was like a Warped Tour, and '07 or some shit like that to see like No Effects and Anti-Flag and shit like that. But yeah, so from there on out, that was it. But there was never a moment where like it was not gonna be straight edge. So
Yeah, like how did the whole straight edge thing come about? Because I know you're super into
those
it.
guys were all straight edge, and like they were always having fun without like drinking or smoking, and it never really got brought up until like the older kids moved on, and then I was kind of stuck with the group that I had, and like none of them really fucked with hardcore or even being straight edge. And as soon as we got older, everyone was like more concerned about partying rather than skating, or partying and picking up girls rather than pulling pranks or whatever, you know. And like I was like, we can still have fun. I don't see the point of all sitting in a basement like getting fucked up trying to hit on like 2 girls when there's like 10 dudes, or like traveling around party to party for like just to stand there. Like I never clicked. Like it's not why I'm friends with you guys. And I'm friends with you guys because you skate or ride or you do whatever, or just funny, but like not in this way.
Yeah. Was there like just any type of militant straight edge in that place where you were at, and like the people who were around?
No, they were just like good dudes. Like some of those dudes went on to be like comedians, and like fucking they were just funny. Like, you know, it was like some more like ckrey shit, just but like not on drugs. Like, you know, they would just always be doing crazy shit, and they just weren't fucked up.
Like in my experience, like just growing up, like skateboarding and stuff, and obviously like skateboarders, a lot of them just get into smoking at a super early age, drinking at a super early age. You watch like the Baker videos, and you're like, this is it. Like, you know, I don't care if I'm 14. Like I'm like, I look like this kid. You know what I mean? I look like this kid on the screen, so I'm just gonna do this and do that. And like a lot of my friends started going to bars at 15. They all got like fake IDs, and they all started going to. And like I didn't, because like you know, I was like going to hardcore shows and like straight edge and all that. And like one thing that I found was that no one, like a lot of times people will be like, because I've never been like high or drunk, people will be like, yo, how did you grow up around like a mad like skate rats and they didn't clown your ass, like blah blah blah. And I felt like when I look back on it now, I feel like because like the hardcore kids, like the straight edge kids, had like that aura of like that like badassery aura. It wasn't like, oh, you don't do this because you're soft, and you don't do this because like you're afraid. You do this because of like some other shit. And it like now like looking back on it, probably like stopped me from like being peer pressured, because no one even like really tried.
Yep.
Because they'd be like, oh, because like these people who you're chilling with, like they just don't do that, and like in like a cool, like more like socially acceptable way, which is like so funny, because it's like from like one angle of straight edge, like, and like the history of it, it's like it's not supposed to necessarily be socially acceptable. It's supposed to be like, fuck you, I have better things to do, and fuck all of you. You know what I mean? And then it like gets flipped around somehow, and these people are like, oh, that's actually cool that you do that, and like they accept you for it. So I was wondering if like you never got like, because you know, I know like you like riding and all that shit, and like, you know, if you ever had something similar happen to you,
where it was like kind of peer pressure,
but they like wouldn't, because they like it's not that you're like, no, I don't want to smoke. It's more like, yo, I'm like straight edge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, well, first of all, I hate when people say they respect it.
Okay.
And they like drink and smoke. Like if you're at a bar and like, oh, I respect that you did. You could do the same thing.
Yeah.
I just don't do it. That's what you guys do. I just don't do that. And another thing I forgot about is that all the older kids in my neighborhood pre-high school, they all had like pink mohawks, and they all skated, and they all had like huge Dead Kennedy logo shirts. And like at the time, it wasn't like it is now, where like you saw like someone skating and everyone was like, I know what that is. And that was like, those were the freaks. So it's like, my mom was always like, you can hang out up there with them, but if you fucking smoke or drink, because she knew they did that, she's not stupid, then you're never fucking hanging out with them again. And I was like, all right, I'll never fucking do it. I just never did it, just because like I wanted to hang out with those guys, and they would always clown. They'd be like, oh, you should do this shit. But I just never fucking did it. Just never tried it, never tasted it, nothing. Because it was just always something else everyone else did. And then it just made sense to just move forward that way, especially through college and all that shit. But then when I got here to New York, that was the worst I've ever been peer pressured. I've like literally like to the T, like, you know, like they play like here's what peer pressure is in high school. That was like literally that, like, you need to drink, bro, like, come on, like,
It's
you
like
need to
a
have
huge party scene.
yeah. So, but now all those dudes are junkies and fucking doing nothing and shit. So it's like, what was it worth it?
Doing that plus graph is not a good combo. You see all the legends and what comes of them, and it sucks to see. Like, it sucks to see these people who you grew up idolizing and you grew up like straight up glorifying, and you see what happens to them, and like, like graph one thing, but it's like at the end of the day, like some of these people who have been around and have been getting ups for years and now are just like straight up a fraction of what they once were, only because of the drugs. Could have just had the same legacy, legend, influence a bunch of people and not have done that. That's why like I have a lot of respect for like Jest or like Claw, who like they come out on the other end, do the exact same thing, but then they like morph it. Obviously, you can't be street bombing up until you're like 55, like 60 years old. Like you're gonna end up destroyed, because usually that comes with like a bunch of other stuff. So I think it's cool when I see writers who, you know, are not only like they're just fully abstinent from that shit, because you're really saving yourself. Like, it's just like how like you go into the wrong woods and that one tick can change your whole life, and you would have no idea that like, oh, if I just didn't walk into this, if I walk into this wood right now, like the next 3 years of my life might be seriously different. So then imagine like if it's like, you know, that like the drugs and alcohol will lead to this. That's like another wood that like we don't know how your life would have been so different. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Or even just the legends who we speak on. Mad of their problems come from, you know, we've had a lot of them on here, and like none of them say anything good about getting twisted.
Yep.
And even if that was like their image back then, like they're all like, don't fucking do it, and don't like watch who your friends are, and don't, you know, all this stuff that's like cool to condone. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna be the graph writer and I'm gonna stab someone in the face so that everyone talks about it. But the people who stab people, 99% of them now are like, yeah, don't stab anyone unless like you seriously really have to, because you're just gonna ruin your life for a legacy.
Exactly.
That you'll be dead.
Yeah.
It's like, what can the legacy do? Like Charlie was saying, like, I'm gonna ruin my life for a legacy that exists when I like no longer am here.
Yeah. Yeah, and no one gives you your roses your flowers while you're alive. Like, no one does that shit.
No.
But it's like, I think again, like Zexer's tags and throws, he's like, the first thing he says is like, graffiti is filled with fuckery. And like since day one it has been. And I never understood that, because no one makes graffiti harder than graffiti writers themselves. Like literally no one does. Like, if it's not, you're not good at it, you didn't rack this, you didn't fucking fight this, you didn't say this, if you didn't do any of this, you don't smoke, you don't drink, there's all these things against you besides the actual fact of doing it, which is a whole other thing, which is hard in itself to consistently do year and year after late night after late night. And it's like, I've had so much backlash from being a writer not drinking, smoking, or whatever. That's a whole other crowd that does that. And I'm not a part of it. And even when I got into graffiti, they never liked that I didn't sit around and black book while they ate perks. It's like, why can't you just guys eat a perk and then we can go paint? Like, I didn't come here to watch you guys sit in a room, do drugs, and then talk about, and then we never leave. Like, why can't you just get fucked up and go paint? Like, I don't understand that. But people really do look down on you sometimes for that shit. Mm-hmm. But you just move on to someone else who understands it. And I've found partner after partner after partner that paints, who's completely, even though they weren't straight edge, even though they drank, when it came to like doing graffiti, they respected that I was sober, because we can get the job done at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And we can go home, and like, it's not going to be this like, well, where's the spot? Fuck it, let's just go do something. Like, no, it's like, I want to go paint. That's what I want to do. I don't have time for the other shit. Like, if everyone else does, then that's cool. They do whatever they want to do, but I just want to paint. I don't even own a black book. I don't even like sitting around doing I don't like sitting around at all. I don't like Latin naps. I don't like any of that shit. So it's like, let's just go. So that's it. Like, full force always. So yeah.
How did you get into it? Like graffiti and painting? Was it before hardcore or?
No, hardcore came first, but like BMX came first. And then, like, with that came all the music shit, and then graffiti came later on. I actually hated graffiti. When my friend showed it to me, I thought it was just like a bunch of dudes with like white dreadlocks playing hacky sack, smoking weed and shit. and like painting like Thornbush style like letters and shit. I was like, you know, like when like that's what you see like on commercial TV when you're younger, like they like have a scene at Baywatch and it's like piers on the beach and it's like a little B-roll shot and it's like dude just like spraying the wall on Venice Beach and it's like that shit looks stupid. Like I don't want to fucking do that. But my homie back in Ohio, he's like a nerd like about everything and like the best way possible when it comes to sports, shoes, clothes, bikes, everything. He knows everything about everything. Before Instagram, the internet, all that stuff, this dude was getting like shoes imported overseas. Like he was real into streetwear, all this shit. He started drawing graffiti a little bit, and then my homie that's lives out here now, where we're from, he started doing it, and he started doing freights first. And he's like, yo, you gotta check this shit out. And I was like, I don't fucking know. Like, it seems fucking stupid. And then one day, he's like, come with me and these two kids. We're just gonna go to the train yard. And I went there, and I was like, all right, cool. Like, I'm just like watching them paint. I'm like, they kind of suck. And then like, there's these other dudes down the way, and there was like a Mexican dude, like a chick with like a Louis Vuitton bandana on, a dude with a mohawk, and then like some other random dude. I'm like, the fuck? I was like, I'm just gonna sit right here and watch you guys. I sat on the rail and watched, and I'm like just thinking. I'm like, all right, cool. Like I recognize, like besides my friends, I like recognize this like cast of people through all the other things I've seen, like whatever, like hardcore and BMX and skating. I recognize like this group. I was like, I think I'm gonna do this. And then once someone told me how it works, like especially with freights, it clicked immediately with the OCD and like the autism, where it's like, okay, the more I do, the more it makes sense. So like I'm just gonna keep doing that. And I always like recognized it off of a main highway in Ohio too, which I learned later on. But these dudes would do whole cars, and if they did them like all in a line, and then the way they would pull them into the main yard, you would see them off the main highway, and it was just big block letters. It'd be like Droid, Sims, like Riddle,
Dude,
Crow.
Sims, oh my god,
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you just said that.
Yeah. So like they would be facing the main highway, and I would always recognize that because it was just block letters or like tilt block letters or you know like whatever. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like I can read that. It's big or it's tilted. There's a nice 3D on it, and you can just see it mad far away. And I'm just like, that's why I paint the way I paint. Just because like when I saw that first, and I was like, that's what I'm gonna do on freights. And then like that's what I've just continued to do. It's never changed.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
No, well, first of all, I just want to give a shout out to Sims because that dude is so good.
It's the underground legend kind
Straight
of.
up, straight up like king. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care like if no one's ever heard of him, dude.
Yeah.
King. That's one, and then two is like I want to give like you props, man. I've been seeing your graph for as long as I've been aware of graffiti at all, and you have like honestly like a lot of talent. It's not that you can just do like a bubble letter fill. You know, it's like it's not that it's easy to come up with a fill, but it's easier to come up with just one fill where you only have to paint that one style forever, and you considered like you're accepted by the scene, by the community as someone who is like pretty proficient as long as you have that one fill and you can do it over and over. But like you can do like, you know, like you do bevels, you do whole cars. When you piece, you can do characters. You could do the background, and you have like the artistic ability to like not just do like a piece, but like all right, we'll do the piece. The background color will connect the whole shit, like you know, like the freight style end to end, and there'll be like a common theme. It'll be like the Home Depot theme, or like that chip dude with the hat, you know, or like the potato sticks. Like I saw that you like do that a number of times, or a Beavis and Butthead theme, and you have like a very creative approach. It's not just like a. It seems like you could hang on like many angles, whether it be like whole cars or piecing, or like straight up street bombing. Like on Jackson Heights, you have this one truck. You have both sides. Yeah. And I've always wondered, like, I doubt you know what I'm talking about, but like I always wonder, like, oh, where did you do this? And yeah, I just like see you on trucks, and I've been just seeing your stuff for a long time. I walked past to fill in across the street from Labor the other day, like on you know what I'm talking about, like on the bottom gate. Yeah, man, and you've just been doing your thing for like it seems like to me a long time, and you've always had a skill for a long time. Like I've seen a lot of people throughout just me observing, they start, and it's cool to watch them get progressively better, but it always seems like you and like the people who you write with, which is like another huge factor in graffiti, have always had a pretty high level of skill.
Yeah.
And you've shifted the people that you've written with over the years. Like I could see that you had like partners that you would write with heavy, and then not so much. Now you have like a whole another, and they're always really really on point. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah. No, I don't even have a black book. Like I said, I've never drawn. Like, I don't do any of that shit. The trains of the black book, honestly. Like, you'll see like the progression of like the fill, like so bad, and then like it just like over time, it's like getting better. There's just a lot of bad shit out there, but yeah, I mean, and as far as the people goes, yeah, I mean, our house in Brooklyn used to be like a graffiti hostel at one point, and that's like kind of why I started shooting photos, is because there was so many people coming through and staying with us, whether it was like people I knew or someone else knew. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna start documenting that. It wasn't like to get fame or like hashtag 35 millimeter or anything like that. It was just like I didn't even own the camera, honestly. Yeah. Fucking I used to work for a Serve, and I was sitting there one day like cashing out, and the dude had like boxes and boxes of photos, and he had never done anything with them, and they were all good photos. And I was like, what'd you shoot these with? And he showed me the Yashica T4, and I was like, cool. I was like, that's easy to use. And he was like, yeah. He's like, that's what I shot all these with. I was like, the lens is nice. It's like nice and sharp. And he was like, yeah. I was like, it shoots low light too, like no flash. He's like, yep. I'm like, you're not gonna do anything with these photos? No, they'll just probably be here. I'll do something with them someday. That's what everyone says. Yeah. And I was like, well, can I borrow the camera? And he was like, yeah, you can borrow it. So I just borrowed it and got film. And I was like, I'm just gonna make something, because I'm not gonna be the person who just has like all these photos and then you never see them. And then another thing is, I didn't like how people would always just like kind of shoot behind someone, a flash photo, and it's like just like, all right, it's just this guy doing a fill cropped or whatever. I was like, I want to see the area, like I want to see the whole scenario that they're in. And a lot of people didn't really do that, kind of, I guess, with like action photos. So I was like, that's something I want to do. It didn't really matter who it was. I just want to show like what they're doing and where they're doing it at. So yeah, that's how that all started.
No, yeah, I mean, your photos are dope, man. I was, I've been lurking, and I saw some of the people that you shot. Brings me back to a time when, like, at least for me, when I was like first getting into graph and like observing it, all of it was so like pure, and I'm like, damn, where do these people go, man? Like, I saw Womp, No Teeth, Too Much, Spain, Beats.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I have a Flickr account where I posted all of these. They're still there. And Beats with his S, with the negative space in the bottom part of the S. And like, I've talked to people who are like current writers about him, and nobody knows who that dude is. And I'm like, yo, when he came, he was up. Like, he actually smashed it. And I'm like, damn, I'm so pissed that like, when I hashtag it, I just hashtag Beats. Obviously, like, it's going to be millions of posts. And I can't find nothing. Yeah. I think I've typed in Beats Graffiti in the past, and like, it's hard for me to find anything. And I saw like a chrome fill that you flicked, and I'm like, this is dope that this is here. Or No Teeth coming through, Too Much Spain, Womp. I always loved Womp stuff, and how straight up like rudimentary it was, and like how like it's like bad but good. You know what I mean? Like
that was the start of it, yeah.
Dude, I always loved, and then like he had in the lower, I think it has to be gone now, the extinguisher going down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was just like, yo, when this dude hits, he doesn't care about anything. He just does it gigantic and rudimentary, and like stock tip fill, stock tip outline, and
just doing graffiti, like
so good,
Jim
man.
Joe Womp shit, you know, like that was the partnership. Yeah, no, I don't know where Womp's at. I don't know where No Teeth's at all.
So they just came through the hostel, the graffiti hostel that you essentially lived
they
in?
Stayed with us. I forget how I used to work. Me and Womp used to do stuff together. Those were all the North Carolina boys. A lot of those guys are still around. Like Rhoda and all them dudes are still around. They just don't do graffiti. Is like how they did it when they moved here. I mean, graffiti's hard in New York. Yeah. I mean, it seems easy now, but it's not hard. I mean, it's not easy. So fucking. I remember Beat told me we did a little run together, and I remember one night it was a bad night, got pressed by some dudes, and he was like, "I'm done. Like, I'm done. Like this, it's not fun anymore." He's like, "I did the fill thing with you." Like he was always doing tags or doing like creative stuff.
Yeah.
And then like we did the fill in run, and you know you got to be a little bit more on point. You got to have the lookouts and all that shit. And he was like, "This isn't fun anymore." And then he gets pressed by these dudes, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm happy that we did what we did." That's what he said, but I'm just gonna do my own thing. I guess he does art now. I don't know what he does. But I think everyone's still around. I don't know. Obviously, Too Much. I consider Too Much one of the most consistent writers. He's been consistent for so long. Spain, still around, super consistent. Forget who else was in there.
Yeah, these are people who have very distinct styles, so they stand out immediately.
They was either they came through or someone knew someone, and they were like, "You should stay with him. You should stay with." Yeah, and they would come through and they'd stay for like a week or two, and we would just shoot photos and go on little trips, and yeah, I mean, that's about it. And I think the best person I shot with was obviously Zexer, because at the time, some of these things I actually did reach out, probably how like you guys do, and reach out to people. But when I'd seen Zexer stuff, I could tell that like he someday he was gonna be someone. Like he was gonna be a prolific writer from New York. Like the writing, the way he does everything looks like New York. It's very, you know, he's a New York person himself, but the graffiti looks very. I consider like Seal and Panic like that type of writers too, where it's like if you took a photo of their stuff on like a cloudy day on like like a fire escape right now, that could be from the 80s or 90s. Like it wouldn't. You know, that's just the way the style is, and I think that's fucking sick because this is the place for it. Like that's how it should look. But Zexer was also like that to me, and a friend had reached out to him, and I was like, "Yeah, I want to shoot with him because I just wanted to have photos, like you know." And we meet up one day, and he's like in like swim trunks that were like neon green, and like a huge polo, and we had never met before, and he got off the train. He's like, "Yo, I don't know if you know anything about me, but I don't give a fuck." And I was like, "Sick." And I didn't have a car at the time. He didn't drive, so we walked up the street, and it was right at Broadway and Marcy. So I'm just gonna do this gate. I'm like, "You want me to look out?" Nah, just shoot the photos. No lookouts, nothing. Just keep going down Broadway. He knows everything about every store, every roof, every he knows everything about everything on Broadway. Any open gate he painted. He knew which way the cops were gonna come, which way they were gonna turn, all that shit. And yeah, and then we kept in touch, and we made another one. And the other little zine and / book I did, he had a little section in, but I made a couple videos to go with it. And the second time we meet up for that was actually like another funny instance, because I was like, "Yo, we should do this, but I'm gonna make a video to like accompany the photos." "No problem," he says. So I'm like, "All right." He's like, "Meet me at Flushing in like fucking Wilson or some shit." And there was a bunch of murals over there, and I pull up, and he's already ragging all the murals daytime. And that's the first time I'd seen like someone bombing day, and he was just standing there, kind of like making his hands warm, and then I could see him from like mad far away, like, and he was just still ragging all the murals. And like I put it in like park with lights on, everything. I got out the camera, and I was like still filming him, just like do it because he was almost done. I'm like, "Why didn't you let me film the whole thing?" So and then like we walked the rest of the day, and that was actually the first time I'd ever bombed daytime was with him on Johnson and like Morgan. And like the way he's just got a way about him that he really knows the streets, and it was really sick to like meet that dude. And he's like everything you do in the streets you hear, you don't see. And I've always like, if you meet someone and there's like one thing you can take away from them, that was one thing I took away from him, because it was like the hearing. Like you can always hear like how things sound, like how people drive, what speed they're going, like all that shit. And that day, like I realized we were like doing these fills on the daytime. I'm like, "Holy shit, this is crazy as fuck!" Like while I'm like filling in, he's laughing because he knows I'm scared, and like, but then like it just made sense after that. Like it okay, yeah, you can do this. And then like after that, it was just a common thing. Oh, just do it daytime. So yeah, yeah, crazy. R.I.P.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean,
Yeah.
like in that video, he's like doing it all daytime. I think he's the only one, right, who in that little series did it daytime.
I showed his face too.
Showed his face.
Yeah, he
talked
just
about
give
how
a-
like
give a fuck, man.
30-something arrests, but then no convictions because it costs this much to do this, to bring
Take
it
it
to
to court,
So
yeah,
then
yeah,
if you just
yep.
do this, then nothing happens.
Yep.
And it's like kind of very consistent with what you're saying about like knowing the laws, knowing this street, knowing that store, knowing
Yep.
where the guy is gonna turn,
Yep.
and I think that's something important, like for like that idea of like the savvy graph writer. You know what I mean? Just to like know your surroundings.
Yep.
That's a huge part of it is really being aware of your surroundings, but more so than just awareness, but like knowing like history and knowing like where you stand and like what you should and shouldn't be doing and
Yep.
when you should and shouldn't be doing it. And I feel like now as graffiti becomes more common, I know like all the skateboarders in the LES, and like all of them pretty much paint something now.
Or yeah, try.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
maybe not necessarily seriously, but in their mind, like it's like serious. Like
Yeah.
in their mind, like they want to get it as quick ups as possible, and they know that now with like graph being like a ginormous thing on Instagram, they can literally do it. Just paint
Yeah.
with like this right person, and then boom, everyone everywhere knows who you are, and it's
Yeah.
like I don't care, man. It definitely does take away the purity of it because before, you're talking about taking photos, and that's something that I wanted to touch on. We went to Dax's crib in Atlanta, and he has mad photos. Kel5MH, mad photos. Nove, mad photos. Lions has his fair share of photos. You look at like all of these people, and Dax talks about how it's like something that was a part, just like how you boosted your shit, and then you soaked your caps in this, and then you got them from here. You also documented it because no one would if the writers didn't.
Yep.
Of course, like there was like the Martha Coopers and like, but like for the most part, like the what you wanted to see in your stuff and you and your boys' memories, bro. Like
Yeah.
some of the greatest times of your life that in that moment they seem like nothing. Maybe not nothing, but they seem like nothing. But in like even fucking 10 years, so much has changed. So many people like you don't know where Notif is at. You don't know where Wamp is at. They're probably still around. But like these photos become straight up gold. You're like, yo, that night,
Yep.
we did this. Like these are straight up like my brothers at one point,
Yeah.
and we're losing that because of straight up. I don't care, like because of digital.
Yep.
Like we have the photos, and they straight up either get deleted or lost when our phone gets smashed. And there's something about having it physically. Like I would like to see a resurgence in that. And what's cool is a lot of writers do that. Like even though it is like a trend to have like your little point and shoot and like do your little thing, it's still at least they're doing it because this is getting lost and it's getting washed away. And any media that isn't just straight on this thing, which dude, the internet could explode tomorrow. Most likely won't. But like, what is it? It's in the air.
Yep.
Whereas like these photos and like, dude. We were at like Nove Studio the other day, and I was looking at some of these photos, and I'm like, yo, I have to start shooting. Like my friends do stuff that like I know in the future will be like these photos, like something that he looks at and like, yeah, dude, in the moment I didn't even care. That dude's dead now, and like that was like my brother, or like look at me, look how in shape I was. Like, oh, this night I did this. Like he was showing us some bugged out shit, and in the moment, like he didn't even think twice when he was taking them. He's like, yeah, boom.
The thing is with those photos is that like I feel like they're just being, not in a way wasted, but like they're just like sitting in his crib, like no one's seeing them. I feel like these things should be celebrated, like they have so much quality and like value to them. It's amazing because like I think about like my phone, for example. I have like in my photo album like thousands of like images and videos, whatever, and like most of it is like bullshit that I wouldn't hesitate to delete, but within those little things are like amazing memories that like sometimes I look back on, but like I wish I had like a physical copy of these things,
Yeah. Well, with the point and shoot camera, to me it wasn't like how it is like to have one now. To me it was like, well, he put the money and time to develop all these photos and had all these boxes of it, and I was like, well, I have this phone, but like that kind of like anyone could do it, so it cheapened it. Just like where if you were gonna make a skate video, the one dude has to have the camera to make, and like no one else could afford it or afford the lens, so that's how you get the video. But now anyone can do anything. They can film, make a little video, graffiti video, make a little collage. They can do anything they want. But to me, it was like if I was gonna spend the money to process all the film, I had to print it. There was no other way to do it. I had to print it to make something rather than just post it. So that was kind of the thing with that. That was like the motivation, where it's like, if I'm going to take these photos, they have to go into something and it has to come out. So, yeah, I don't know where all those, there's no pot of gold at the end of the graffiti rainbow. So it's like, they can all like fucking fuck off and do their little streaks and shit, whatever. But there's, real writers like, Zexers sit at my house and talk about Harbor Blue for 3 hours. Only someone obsessed with graffiti is going to do that. And that's the beauty of it, right? Not saying people will become that, but it's like, this isn't a trend for some people, right? Like, it's not. Like, people live this shit day in, day out. And, I think the photos help with that, too. I try to document people who kind of felt that way about it as well. Like, it wasn't just, like, this thing, but, things change. So some people fade away and some people stick around, but...
Also, something I think about, like, in terms of longevity with graffiti is, like, style and, like, tags. Like, me growing up in South Brooklyn, I feel like the people I talked to, they made it seem, and that's the way it was, because that's how long it took for me, in a way. Like, it would take, like, 3 to 5 years just to develop a solid hand style. You know what I mean? To, like, truly be, like, yo, this is how it is, and this is who I am. And, like, constant progression, you get what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, I think... it needs to be practiced a lot more before getting put on the streets, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, bro, like, when I was young, I would squeeze into little, like, construction lots, like, in the middle of nowhere to, like, try to do something on, like, a piece of wood. Now kids are hitting, like, high spots. It's, like, their first spot.
Yeah.
It's, like, it's crazy, the
evolution of... Or it's, like, be bad forever. Some people are bad forever. That's fine. But it's forever. It's not like 1 year. How many people you see come and go in 1 year, like through all this shit. So it's like, yeah, just be bad for the rest of your life. That's dope too. That's a part of graffiti that we need, right? Like, they're like, yeah, that sucks, but that thing is fucking everywhere. Everywhere. And damn, fuck, that's it. Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, and then they got some weird shit going on with them, and that's the reason they do it. And I fuck with that. Like, I fuck with all the outsider code type of shit. Like, like South Brooklyn's a crazy place. There's like a lot of strange people down there, especially fucking writers. And fucking, but they've been around forever. That's an area where a lot of people have been around forever, so shout out Matt.
Shout out Matt. But yo, speaking about like coming and going, 1 year in, 1 year out, and like people who leave quickly, what has been your deal with your run-ins with Vandal Squad and all of that stuff?
Yeah, I don't know. Fucking just had an instance with them, and those dudes. It's a different. I don't know. Like, it's a sign of the times. I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know. Like, a lot of people. I don't know. There was only one time where it was actually kind of fucked, but it was for freights, and like this G.I. Joe motherfucker from Queens. He just, like, he wasn't having it. And he apparently is, like, transit. I don't know his name. I asked if he was still working for them, and he was like, they were like, yeah. And I'm like, fuck, I hope that dude doesn't show up. And they're like, yeah, we hope he doesn't show up either. Like that. I don't even think they like him. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, some of those guys are gung-ho. But, like, yo, honestly, that's probably a fun job. like, like, I hate the word ACAB. I hate all that shit. I hate fuck the police. Dude, like, they're just, if you own a building and someone paints your gate, you're gonna be tight. Like, if you own a building, like,
if you don't know about graffiti, why would you be happy about that?
Like, why would I, like, wow. Yeah. And then someone comes and hits it the next day, and the next day after that, and you're gonna be fucking tight. You're gonna be pissed. If I owned anything and any. I even hate when people come to my crib and they write on the cardboard boxes that I have my paint in. I'm like, yo, why you gonna vandalize my own shit? Yeah. Like, or like, leave shit in my car. I hate all that shit. Like, even when you own a car and people put bumper stickers on the car, it's like, why do you put stickers on your own shit? Like, that's a car. It costs thousands and thousands of dollars. But it's like, yo, I think there's like I think there's a corny thing in graffiti where it's like, and especially now with everything that's going on, all the police shit, it's like, nah, it's like, it'd actually be kind of fun to just drive around and look for fucking retards all day doing stupid shit. But then you have everyone bitch at you about it. It's like, I don't know. I mean, like fucking, it's like, Vandal Squad, like, it's not even a serious, you know, you're not going to do time. Fucking, what? Some people have been arrested like 75, 80 times.
Like, almost no writers have done time. There have been some, but, like, almost none. Compared to how many there are and how many get caught, like, your chances of doing time are infinitesimally small.
Dude, it's like, yeah, unless you're doing, like, transit or you're painting bumblefuck somewhere. It's like, but here it's like, unless they change the law, I mean, dude, it's fun for them, too. It has to be fun for them. Like, these guys are idiots, like, and so are we. So it's like, fucking, it's got to be fun as hell, like, just catching some dumbass, like, you know, like, we just caught this guy doing this. What a dumb idiot. It's like, yeah, that's hilarious. They probably joke about it after work, and I'd imagine, I hope they do. So yeah, you know.
So you haven't had any like serious repercussions for Graph?
Nah, not at all. Just like a bunch of arrests, but that's it. I think it's like 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, at this point. But it's like...
We're all in New York?
Yeah, it's all stupid. So it's just all dumb.
Mm-hmm. You don't get worried. You don't get worried when you go out that like if they bag you because you've had all these arrests, like something will come of it, or?
No, this because it's like always past that marker where it's like they give you the 6 months to you know, chill or whatever. If that thing goes away, everyone's fucked. So yeah, you know, I don't know. I remember the first time, it was like 2011. The courts were so backed up, and I remember being in there and the judge being like, another one of these fucking things, and it was a graffiti case, and it was just like, what the fuck, like, why, you know? And it's like, it just backs up court, and so do a bunch of other things, like all the weed shit. Thank God. So going through is smooth now. It's like not that bad, but yeah.
What was the deal with you moving to New York? When did you initially come here, and like what was your initial living situation like?
It was always gonna happen. There was like no other place I ever thought of. I don't even care about going overseas. I don't care about any of that shit. New York was always gonna be the place. It was basically started because of BMX, watching footage and like the way it looked on film, and I was like, I want to go there and I want to ride and I want to film like that, and then the graffiti followed up with that. At the same time, and then so did the music as well. Everything just made sense. Like and I was really into like streetwear and stuff at that time, so I was like, everything's there. And then like I went to school for graphic design, all the jobs are there, and there was just no questions. Like as soon as I graduated, it was like, that's where I'm gonna go. And then I came, and yeah, the rest is history. So
you never thought about moving out or nothing?
Out of here?
Yeah.
Hell no. Never going back, never going forward. It's just gonna be, I don't think about it. I don't even like the thought of going overseas to like do anything. I think America's sick. Like, I love the fact that all these guys are doing like the 50 states thing now. And like, it's just like the most random cast of people doing it, but it's like, that's kind of sick because, like, dude, there's a lot of sea in the country and there's a lot of fucking shit to paint. And I think a lot of the states are cool for different reasons, and New York's not the only one. Everything in the middle is cool, and yeah, it's all fucking nuts everywhere you go.
Do you believe in that statement where people say, like, oh, if you can paint New York, you can paint anywhere?
Nah.
I don't believe in that either. I've heard that so many times.
If you can't paint somewhere else, you can paint here.
Yeah, that's how
like, it's like, it's like, this is the easiest place to paint. Everywhere else is like, why do it? Or you're just gonna get like, most cities you could just king it in like 15 fills, 20 fills, and
so like at night you might be one of the only people walking around.
Yep.
And there's actually gonna be mad boys staring at you.
Yeah. Or someone calling the police or whatever.
Yeah. And there's no hole in the ground that you can just escape on a cylinder.
Yep.
Just like somewhere mad far away.
Some alley, some whatever.
Yeah.
Taxi, Uber,
Like
whatever.
you get chased in another city that doesn't have like a rapid subway system, or even one that you could just run into the tunnel.
Yeah.
You're kind of boned, man. Like
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
gonna have to do some really next stuff to get away. You're gonna have to hide. You're gonna have to jump in a dumpster. You're gonna have to pray they don't call back up.
Yep.
Here it's like, dude, I'll just run into the subway. I'll just paint a spot that's right next to this hole,
Yep.
and then I'll be good money. And not only that, but like even if I'm not, then like I get nothing happens to me.
Yep.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's like, speaking of the 50 State store, that's what comes to mind when I picture these like New York writers just show up into like a little town in like in the middle of nowhere, and like no disrespect to like Kentucky, but like places like that. It's like they just show up with like a New York mentality, and there's like nothing but cows, and they're like, yo, all right, I'm gonna hit this state, but like what do I even write on? Catch a market tag, and all right, I'm done with this state. Like,
yeah, there's not even shit to hit in some places, but people make it work, I guess.
Yeah, no.
I feel like there's like progressively less stuff to hit out here too, as different buildings pop up with like certain fronts that like wouldn't really make sense to hit, or they're like leveled, so it's like, oh, I can't like rock a filling on that or anything like that. And part of me thinks that I know this is like might sound crazy, but part of me thinks that like the day will come when like at least the LES is cooked, like there's no more graph there. And the reason I think that is just because like when I went to SF not that long ago, and I've heard so many things about SF graph and the history and all the people, and like I linked up with a writer out there who really knows his shit, and we went to like all of like he brought us to all of the like, and everything was buffed, like clean, and even places like the Mission were pretty buffed, and like I was like, dude, how did this happen? And it happened because even if you look at like areas in New York, what gates get buffed the next day, and you'll just be like, there's no point.
Yeah.
So if that gate becomes 2, and those 2 become 4, and those 4 become 16, before you know it, like whole blocks can be like no goes anymore, and you get just shifted to another area, and like not only that, but like the changing of like the architecture, which does have a huge part to do with it. If you change up the architecture and like the buildings aren't ones that like make sense to hit, then what are you supposed to do? Yeah. You know what I mean? And like it's not like I think like New York will ever get to the point where it's like graffiti free. I'm sure it will one day. Like as years and years and years go on, if we're all not dead by then, like humanity as a whole. But I'm saying like I don't think that like it's as far removed as people think it is. Like, oh, that could never happen. There's a million years from now, or like, I think that it could happen if they wanted to. If that was like their sole mission, which obviously it's not going to be, but if it was, it's cool. It's clipped. Yeah. They did it for the trains, and like, yeah, arguably the trains are harder than, easier to do that too than like the streets, but like, it's still fully possible, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. Or people would just find a different place to do it. Some place overlooked like Cleveland or St. Louis, or, Detroit was an example of that, or whatever, I think Cleveland's like the new hot spot, so.
For real?
Yeah, a lot of people have been going there. So
oh, word.
A lot of people have been coming through. And it's like the east side of Cleveland's terrible. Like, you don't hear a lot of shit about this, but it's fucking huge, and it's terrible, and it's all brick, and there's not a lot of police, and you're going to have a harder time with the people living there than you are with actual police. And the east side it starts getting bad at 55th, and it goes all the way to like almost 230. So that's a lot of blocks. There's a lot of abandoned, vacant bullshit on. So, and that's just the one side. So yeah, there's tons of stuff to paint there.
Do you feel like you have Cleveland and influenced you at all in your life, or not much?
No, it was just like the venues were on the east side, and the way we took to go to shows had to pass through like all the main routes, and I would always see stuff. So yeah, that was about it. I would always see graffiti and like, oh, it looks cool. That style, like the big block letters and stuff that was readable when people did like spell outs and shit, I was like, that stuff looks cool, but I didn't think anything twice about it, actually, like at all. Like, it just like, oh, you can read what it says, like, the name Sim over and over and over.
So Sims is up in Cleveland?
He's king.
Dude, are you serious?
Yeah,
I
he's
thought he
from-
was from Massachusetts.
He came there after and killed it there. Yeah, but he had Cleveland like he still has spots that are like still living pretty big shit.
He has some stuff in Massachusetts still living too, like Hangover Rollers.
Yeah, I know
Like
the
there's
one.
one in Cambridge.
Yeah, I know the one.
That's
you're
straight
talking
up king. Like it's so well done
Yeah.
that it makes no sense. And then he has this one where it's like a walkover bridge, but not a walkover bridge. Like you could walk over, but you're not supposed to. And like he did a roller as like perfect as you could possibly do one.
Yeah. Do you know anything about that guy?
Nope.
Straightedge.
Really? He's
Yeah.
like into the hardcore scene and stuff?
Hell yeah.
Oh, dope. I
Yeah,
have
out there.
literally no idea anything whatsoever besides that he's straight edge and that he's painted in Cleveland
Yeah.
and Boston.
Yeah. His teacher.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah, it's like one of those things, like he's just like kind of he did what he needed to do, and then
It almost makes it sicker for me that like he doesn't paint anymore.
yeah.
Just because I'm like, yo, that's like stamped in time forever. Like it's almost
Yeah.
like in boxing, if like the champion stays for way too long and then just gets his ass whooped. It's like he's did the best stuff in the best places, and now that's that, and
Yep.
you're never gonna see it ever again.
I think New York and like Philly and like that, or like LA or whatever, is like the only places where it's probably motivate you to be 50 or 60 years old and still paint, because it's like you can't escape. Like something new on your way to work pops up, and you're like, fuck. I always wanted to fucking do that gate. Why didn't the fuck? And you're just like, now you keep an eye on it, gets buffed, and you got to go do it. So it's like, I think it motivates you to keep going. Like you just can't escape. You're like, fuck, that dude got it. Fuck, like now I got to go do it. So, but like you're from like Mass and Cleveland. You're like, there's not really comp. So
No, there's not.
it's just like you just do what you do.
Do
and
you
then,
still get hyped and inspired to paint? Or
Yeah, every day.
do you've never felt like, yo, I'm kind of over this, kind of like how Beats was like, I'm done, man. Like it's clipped.
Nah, because like I feel like this with everything. It's like if you spend a certain amount of time on something, then what's the point of quitting? Like why would you just quit? Like I don't know. I mean, you do it 3 or 4 times a week, sometimes 5, sometimes 7 days a week. What the fuck? Why would you just? I don't know. Like you can burn yourself out, but like even getting older, to me, it seems more important than it ever has been. Like especially like all the youth type of stuff, like hardcore, BMX, graffiti. It seems more important now than ever has been, because now I'm watching all my friends get older, and I'm watching them get married, and I'm watching them have kids, and I was like, well, this is why we're all friends. We're still friends because even though that stuff exists and it's changing, but to me, it's like I just want to keep going. So it's more important now to get it all in while I can with the people that I want to get it in with, until like you got to figure out who else you can do it with.
Yo, straight up, man. Like I'm 25 and I look like I'm fucking 15, but like I just from like observing and seeing like people grow older and seeing lives completely change, and there's nothing wrong with lives changing. Like sometimes it changes for the better, for the worse, and it's all relative to the person's opinion. But I do really love the thought of like someone, not necessarily graffiti, but like someone who's into like kind of like this esoteric shit, and it keeps them alive, and it keeps them always creative and always like seeking for more, and it just keeps them alive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because what is life if like you're just like satisfied with like, yeah, this is my life now. I literally do this from like this time to this time. Then I go home and watch this. I go to sleep and I continue this process until I borderline can't walk anymore. Whereas like this thing always like keeps you going. Like I said, not even just graph, but like like older dudes in bands, or like Joe Hardcore's an older dude, and like he just recently started, not recently, but like a few years ago, so recently started training jiu-jitsu, and like now he's super into it. He's like competed. We've talked about it for like 40 minutes. He books his he has shit going on. He has a podcast.
Yeah.
He's like traveling, going to other shows. He truthfully enjoys pitting with like passion. And he has moves. You know what I mean? Like he can move and like it's like you look at other people his age, and it's like, bro, I don't know, man. I think this dude's living a little bit better. I think he's living more like fun.
Well, yeah, it's like, dude, just like you just said, the dude still books all the stuff. He still pits. He's still doing all this other stuff. And then there's other people, like I've run into other people who I'd be working at an agency, and they love hardcore. Like they love it to death. but just because they have a kid, they can't make it to one show a fucking year.
Sucks.
You can't. You love graffiti to death, but you can't go paint just a wall, or just a fucking train once a year, but you love it and you think about it all the time. It's like, I don't fucking know. Like, there's some things you physically can't do. Like, you can't skate forever. You can't ride BMX forever. Those days, when that's gone, that's going to fucking suck, you know? But, like, yeah, you can go to a hardcore show for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
As much as, like, you think, like...
You can check out the new music for the rest of your life.
You can check out...
You can play your own music.
You can play. You can continue to support.
You can make art.
Yeah, you can do it. You can do all that shit.
Yeah. And that shit keeps your mind open, too, to just other possibilities. Like, there's that thought that it's like, yeah, it's some little kid stuff. It's some little kid stuff. But, like, you keep thinking that way. And when you'll be older, like, you're going to be that boring-ass old dude who, like, isn't down to do anything because everyone says that's little kid stuff. I don't know, but it's like, you know, it's a common thought, but it's like, but who said, like, that's, like, why? Because you say it now, it's official? Like,
I think about that all the time, actually, where it's like, oh, someone says, like, you know, you're still doing that? You're still riding the bike? You're still painting? You're still fucking, yeah, but, like, are you normal or am I normal?
Yeah.
Am I crazy or are you crazy? Like, all my friends are younger, too, like, in the 20, 25, you know, they're younger, like, you know, someone who's 35 shouldn't be hanging out with a 20-year-old writing graffiti. That's what people say.
Yeah.
But I don't look at it that way. Like, that's just a homie. He fucking paints. Like, whatever. Fucking, I don't know. So, yeah, that is a good point because it's like, that'll drive me insane for a little bit, but then I just, like, won't care because it's like, dude, this stuff has brought me so far in, like, certain aspects of my life that I could never betray it at all. Yeah. As much as, like, I hate people who do graffiti sometimes, and I hate the act of it, or I hate how unhealthy it is, or I hate being arrested, or I hate the late nights, or all that shit, and you want to give up, it's like you can't turn your back on something that has, like, opened your eyes to so many fucking things. And that goes with hardcore, too, or, like, being straight. Like, man, like, people will be like, oh, you know, it's just like, oh, all the new bands suck. And it's like, no, it's the same shit over and over, but it's just hardcore. You like hardcore for hardcore. Like, every show, it's like, if you go to 100 shows in a day in a row, or you tour all year round, yeah, I guess it gets a little fucking stale.
You're going to burn yourself out.
Burn yourself out. Take a little break, come back. But you can never forget what it has given you. Like, as bad as things get, like, I wouldn't have it any other way sometimes. Like, I should have done more, honestly. I should have gotten more trouble, done more crazy shit. I wish I wasn't afraid of heights. But yeah, fucking, I wish I would have done, like, near-death shit and almost fucking died. So it's like, yeah. I hate when people get jaded on that shit. Because it's really easy to do it.
It's easy to forget.
It's easy to forget.
I do the same thing, man. I'll be like, yo, this stuff is stupid. Like, I'm about to just never do this ever again. Or, like, I'm about to just, like, yo, all these people are, like, you know, it's easy to start hating and see only the negative. And just forget about, like, all the truly, like you said, like, beautiful shit that is... For me, I feel like just like all these things that I've been into since I was super, super young have honestly opened my mind more than like anything else could.
Hell yeah.
Because it's like, for example, if I study in like a school, which I also have done, that opens my mind in one way, but like that's a way that like is very common. You know what I'm saying? But like, once you open your like eyes to the possibilities of like all these other things are possible, you realize like not only that, but like you kind of realize like who is anyone to say like anything about anything? Like how can this person tell me like this is right? Or like I kind of think like for example, it's just like dumb shit, but like to me it's not. Like people might be like, oh, if you're like 47 and like doing this, like you're whack, like you're like a little kid.
Yeah.
But like I kind of really think that like the way Charlie lives his life is the shit.
Yeah.
And I think that like the way he talks is so sick, and I think the way he thinks is sick, and like I really enjoy being around that dude, and like he's just like mad cool, right? And then like but then you look at other people his age, and it's like, yo, you're literally like, I can't relate to you, and you're like boring. You're like boring, and like also very judgmental. Like I know I could tell this dude like anything, and he'd be like, yeah, like go for it, or like yeah, like this and that, or like yeah. You tell the other type of like older generation something, and if it's not like, yeah, I want to do this one specific thing, they'll be like, yo, that's cut. Like, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
Like, that's, and not only that, but it's like an impossibility. And I don't like that closed-minded shit, because like, that's what it is. It's closed-minded shit, and it just like will literally ruin your life.
Yep.
It's pretty funny. I noticed that at work because like I'm a plumber, and I usually work with like older men, you know, like 40 to 50-year-old men, and it's like they'll be like, "What are you doing after work? Whatever. Like, what are your plans?" I'm like, "Oh, like I have an episode. I have a guest with a, you know, I do this podcast."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, that's cool. Like, what's that about?" And I'm like, they're like, "What do you talk about?" Whatever. I'm like, "Oh, like different subcultures, like graffiti, skateboarding." Like, "Oh, like really? Like graffiti? Like, I don't know. Isn't that like some little kid shit?" Or like they'll just like be mad judgmental right off the bat without even like thinking about like what they're even saying, you know. And and they're like, "Who's his guest?" And I'm like, "Oh, he's like a 40-year-old dude. Like he's like graffiti, like 40-year-old dude. What is he doing? Like his life is like who are these bums, you know, in a way." But like his life has more like, I don't even know the word to put. Like it's like, for example, Charlie, like he so much more like value and like life, I would say, like feeling alive than like, you know, than like, for example, like
someone who does their plumbing job and goes home and drinks a beer while watching their show. You know what I'm saying? Like,
or they think that, you know, people are bums, but like, you know, some of these people are millionaires. Like, so yeah, like some people have bread that are just doing graffiti. Like, you know, fucking some people are well off. Like they're good.
Some
like
people
they got
came from graph, like real graph, like KR.
Yeah.
And look.
Yeah, fucking
bugged out.
Yo. Yeah.
And nothing. I love those people.
Yeah.
Because they did something that's like wasn't supposed to be done.
Yeah.
It's that's like the craziest thing to me. And like but speaking about that, you know, it's funny. Like I was at the dentist in Manhattan, and it was like some like bougie ass dental clinic, and like the lady is like, she's probably like 32 or something. Like she's pretty young, and she's like working on my teeth, whatever. And then she's like, "Yeah, so what do you do or whatever?" And I'm like, fuck, man. You know what I mean? I don't even want to like talk right now about anything. And then I'm like, I do like this podcast thing. And then she's like, "Oh, cool. Like, what is it on?" And I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's, you know, I don't like want to talk about nothing. And then she ends up like pulling it up and like lurking on the gram, and I'm sitting there like, you know what I mean? Like, what is, because this is like so far removed from anything that she's probably ever seen or like even thought of ever. Like, I think the first video at the time was just someone like, you know, like doing a fill in like broad day or something. That like she's gonna be like, "Who filmed this? Like, did you film this?
Yeah.
Like, were you standing there as he did this?
Yeah.
And like, what did you even talk to this guy about?"
Yeah.
And like trying to explain it to these people, it's crazy because, well, like on paper, like they're like the intelligent ones. I'm not saying like they don't have their form of intelligence, but I feel like I have to explain something to someone who would never be able to wrap their mind around it.
Yep.
And what does that sound like? It sounds like the stupid one almost. Because I can explain it, you would never be able to understand. That's like a form of stupidity. Yep. You know what I mean? And I remember thinking that, I'm like, yo, there's literally nothing I could do to explain like anything to this person, because they're set like super cemented in their way, and like this is just the way it is. And you know what it is? Like, I'm not even mad at that. Because that's what like makes a lot of this shit like cool and like beautiful, is like the fact that it is not that for everyone to understand. If it was for everyone to understand, it would just be like whatever.
It would just be stuff. Whatever. Yeah, we can't we as like all this shit that we do and talk about, we can't even hate on like all those other people for not understanding. It's just not what they do. Like the deli guy doesn't know shit about fucking graffiti or whatever, but that dude's funny as hell. Or like fucking some dude working at Chipotle is like, you know, he's fun. You know, like there's a place for everyone, no matter who you meet. Like no one, I don't expect people to understand, and because sometimes I don't even understand why. But you know, like, fuck, you just spent 12 hours driving around all day looking for spots, then you went and painted them at night. It's like, well, we could have done so much more with our lives. like graffiti writers could have cured cancer. You know what I'm saying? But we chose to just like sit around and talk about how apple red works better in the tunnels than like, you know, fucking jade green. Like, we sit around and talk about stupid shit, but it's like, wouldn't expect like all these people to understand, like, you know, fucking. And it's cool when they don't, and also you never even know. Like if I were you guys, I'd be like, hell yeah, I do this podcast, and hell yeah, I always tell people I fucking do all that shit, because like you never know. Oh, my son used to. He's got a friend. It's like you never know who knows who, especially out here. I think it's cool to say that you do that. And now, you know, everything's popular now, so it's like everyone kind of understands, I guess. But it's like, who knows? I mean, fucking yeah. If I were you guys, I would tell people to do it. But it was something I was gonna say is like about being burned out. I'm sure sometimes maybe you guys are gonna look back on this and be like, damn. These fucking interviews sucked. Or like doing this shit sucked. Or like organizing this shit sucked. But like, even though like it sucks, then I think it's still worth pursuing. Like, you know, this isn't taking much time out of our day. So it's just like, you know, it's an hour of our time. And
for me, it's really worth doing. Cause like, when I was coming up more and I used to lurk online and lurk on interviews and read every magazine, and if there was something like this I could have heard like you talk, or I could have heard like Nove go into detail about LSD, or if I could have heard like Charlie talking about like getting down with G-Stone Crips, dude, I would have never left my crib. Not like literally, but I would have just been straight up listening and memorizing sentences. And been like, I'm gonna do the exact same thing. Or like, you know what I mean? Like I would have just been super influenced, and it would have had I believe a positive impact in my life. It would have gave me like a more life and like put ideas in my head, especially with a lot of like the older cats, because like they're past a lot of the like I'll stab you in the face phase now. So they can put on the younger generation to be like, you know, like I literally did this to the highest degree, and I would advise you to like maybe think twice. You know?
But even though like, you know, there's still something to be said about like PJ and Cap and like the way they acted then. Like it's just still hilarious. Like it's still funny. All those interviews are funny. And there's still kind of like something to like romanticize about like being the, you know, like they're villains, like, you know, like I think there's something cool about that, and I'm glad they did what they did. I wish they still did. And I think like they've like, you know, like you said, they inspired people around the world to be like kind of like them. Like there literally is beef crews, like they just beef and brag. That's a form of graffiti that I kind of fuck with, but it's like, but then they came out later on and they were like, yo, fucking those were huge mistakes. I don't really look at it like that's the best section in Style Wars in my opinion. So it's like, dude,
it like personifies like that, like the style of graph, like the real fuck you. You know what I mean? Or you're like, you go over me, I'm going over you for life. And just like you hear these things, and it's like they're literally like sentences that are iconic. You can never forget them once you've heard them.
I don't think like anyone, like you were saying, like you've memorized like every sentence and all these magazine stuff, and like I've read interviews and all that, and same with me, and especially like the first bands you've heard, you can never forget some of those songs or chords or lyrics. But it sucks because I think that like there's not a lot of room to like make stuff like that anymore, like. Because we can't say everything we want to say on air here, right? Like, fucking, if a lot of people could, then a lot of people would be in trouble too. So it's like, it kind of sucks sometimes. But like in older interviews, like, you know, like Star Wars, like fucking, they kind of said what they needed to say. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, bro. Dude, thank you so much for coming on the show, bro. It was an amazing time.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks.
Really sick. Thank you, man.
Peace.